Thank you all for joining us. Happy Women's History Month. Obviously, I'm a gentleman. I'm going to get right out the way soon, but I wanted to bring greetings and thank you all for joining us today. Facebook and Zoom. Big shout out to the Bloomfield community. Shout out to the ladies of Bloomfield that's celebrating 25 years or more of service to Bloomfield College. We got something special for you coming up this month. But today we are proud to host our first ever BC Red Table Talk, hosted by Miss Red Lipstick herself, Al Dean, the Vice President for Student Affairs, Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs, also celebrating 30 years of service to Bloomfield College, proud alumni, Dean Rose Mitchell, who's joined today by another special guest, and we'll share her bio in the chat. Her name is Mrs. Kasey Dudley. She is a Bloomfield School Board member, recently elected last November. I think you were sworn in January, Kasey? Excellent, excellent. Ran on a team of all women who made history. So we're glad to have her here a part of with us today. We also have a resident area coordinator, Alexis. Say hello, Alexis. And then we can't see it. Give a little wave over there. There you go. Wave again, Alexis. Okay. And then we have our Vice President for Organizational Affairs for the Bloomfield College Student Government. She's going to be helping to moderate the chat. So if you have any questions, comments, you can just put them in the chat and Destiny will be your correspondent. Destiny, say what's up.
Hi, everybody.
And now I'm going to turn it over to the host for the day. She is the homecoming queen of Bloomfield College. Give it up for Kaya Wright, everybody. Take it away, ladies.
I don't mind taking that question. I think that's an excellent question. And I believe wholeheartedly that contributions that we make as women should be ones that are filled with power, with intent. I have been honored to work here at Bloomfield College, as you heard, for nearly 30 years. And
growing up, the woman that I admired was my mother. So to see more African American women that are educators in leadership roles is so inspiring. And what really motivates me today is that women of color are not only having a seat at the table, but we are demanding a seat at the table. We are demanding entry into those rooms and really having those conversations and making an impact, so that way we can leave a legacy for our younger generations to build upon. And I think that that is just so inspirational. As a young educator, only being here for 4 years to sit next to Dean Mitchell, to sit next to Kaya, and to really have this authentic conversation is such a blessing, because every year I would look at these promotions and wonder when my picture was going to be here. And it's not here yet, but I'm at the table. So I have a seat at this table too, and that feels really good.
So whether your table is red, whether it's green, black, or blue, or painted with polka dots, just utilizing your voice and knowing that you can create a seat at the table. You don't have to wait to be invited. Create your opportunity to be at that table, and speak with passion and determination, and know that you're doing it not only for you, but you're creating this chain reaction for so many women that will come after you. I think about our ancestors. I think about my mother and everything my mother had to endure as a woman of color. And I think about her strength and her integrity and her commitment to raising a family of 7, and what that was like for her to be able to not only work, but to also to raise children. You know, it's 7 of us, and to be able to raise 7 children, to work, to balance a household, to be a wife, be a mother. Women can do it all. I do believe that wholeheartedly. And so just understanding that whatever your passions are, your dreams are, your goals are, as Alexis said, finding that table and being there and being recognized and being a trailblazer and being a champion and a cheerleader to create opportunities of equity and equality, so that there's a sense of fairness for all of us, no matter what our race is or our age or gender, etc. but just being able to be that powerful force to make necessary changes and differences in the lives of other people. And Alexis, I'm so happy that we get an opportunity to do that every day at Bloomfield College, working with students of color and students who may have some struggles along the way, and being able to be role models and mentors to them. It's really not work. It's a playground where we have fun with what we do, but we know what we do it with a great deal of intention.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So for me, something that contribution that's important to me is actually as a nursing student. So for me specifically, one thing, for example, Mary Mahoney, she actually was the first African-American licensed nurse. And she's actually one of the few students who attended the Phillips School of Boston, which was the first integrated school. So it's very important to me as a student to care about the medical field, specifically for African-American women or African-American people, and be one of those top commanders as a nurse practitioner or a physician, making sure that I'm representing me, my people, and doing right by them. So women experience similar disparities to those of many oppressed groups across America, up and down, especially for the workforce and across all pay scales. So what have both your experiences or contributions would you like to include to this? Or so speaking on both milestones and existing challenges relevant to equity and equality for women. So what contributions have either one of you ladies done on the improvement of that?
Well, thinking about where I was born and raised on a farm in Virginia, where education was not something that was frequently discussed. College wasn't discussed because my family did not have the financial means to provide that for me. But being able to arrive on a college campus when there were so many obstacles against me, but being able to not only arrive here, but yes, to survive, but to also thrive as a student, to thrive in my profession here has been important. Thinking about the contribution, at one point, I believe I was one of the youngest EOF directors here in the state of New Jersey, and just being able to show other women that it's possible, that we can come from some challenging and some difficult experiences and backgrounds where we might have to fight a little, right? We might have to struggle a little, but we can raise our voices and we can be, again, this power force to make necessary changes, not only for our own lives, but for our students, and to let them know that we might have had some difficulties too, but all things are possible if you work really hard, if you have a goal, if you have dreams that you want to accomplish, that no matter what you face, you can endure. And you might need to take a step back and look at what are some of the resources and services that you might need in order to thrive. You might need to connect yourselves with some amazing mentors and get all the resources and services that you can possibly attain in order to be successful. Because Alexis, I didn't arrive to this place on my own. I know that I was on the backs, the shoulders of a lot of people that came before me who traveled this path. And so I'm honored that I traveled this journey in life with ancestors cheering me on, with family and friends cheering me on, with students and colleagues cheering me on. And sometimes I have to stop a minute and be that cheerleader and that champion for other people that are traveling that journey, because this is not just about me and my contributions, but it's about what people have poured into me that I can actually pour into others.
I think what we fail to realize, and D. Mitchell highlighted a lot of great points, is when you step foot and enroll in college, you're already, breaking barriers. You get what I'm saying? And for me, going to college really provided me with the foundation to mentor other younger African American females. I always tell people when I leave Clee Hall, I'm not only representing myself, but I'm representing REH. I'm representing my family, but I'm representing maybe an RA that may want to become a resident director, maybe a student that may want to become an RA, and all of the other higher education practitioners who are in my seat that look like me, that talk like me, that have similar backgrounds. And so I think that we are already breaking those barriers by, you know, giving back to our campus community. I am aware that as African American, we may not get paid the same. You know, I am aware that, you know, we have to deal with more challenges than any other race, in my personal opinion. But what I'm also aware is that because of my education, I can give back and I can encourage other students to, you know, have that seat at the table, to go after their dreams. And I always tell people, why not live with the drive to aspire? So if I'm inspiring somebody every day, I know that when I retire, there's other people that can take my role and continue to, like, it's almost like passing the baton and continuing the legacy. So that to me is, you're contributing every day by getting up and going to work and talking to a student, by answering that email, by going to that meeting, by talking to your colleagues, and by motivating somebody. So to me, it's very important to monitor our actions daily.
I totally agree with that. There's a quote that I once read, and it said, the sky is not the limit when there are footprints on the moon. And that's just so powerful, because the sky is not the limit for any of us as people, especially, you know, women, especially women of color. The sky is not the limit. If there are footprints on the moon, that means we can do anything that we put our minds to. And so why not do it in a unified way? You know, I can't just arrive to a certain level here at the institution where I don't care enough about women that are behind me that want the same, if not more. You know, students often say, Dean Mitchell, I want to be like you. And I will say to them, don't be like me, be better than me.
Right.
You know, arrive to a newer place, a newer height of success or things that you want to accomplish in life. I take it as a compliment, but I turn it around to say, no, you're going to far exceed anything that I ever set out to do. And that's to empower other women, especially our students here and our women of color.
Yeah. I completely agree. I tell the students and the RAs all the time, you have to find a soundtrack to your life. So I don't know what song that may look like to other people, but you have to find, you know, that motivating piece. So when I was in college, you know, back in the day, and I told this story to everyone, and I told it to a few freshmen this year, but, you know, back in the day, we had a thing called iPods, you know. I don't know if you guys know what an iPod is.
We're dating ourselves, right. Alexis.
So my iPod was on in alphabetical order. I never really shuffled my music because I was just like, I want to listen to my music the way I want to listen to it. I don't want any random songs. And one of the songs that played my very first day in college was Ambition, and it's by an artist named Wright. And so one of the lyrics in the song was, why not live with the drive to aspire? And they're going to love me for my ambition. And every day for 4 years, I listened to that song on the way to class, up until my last semester on my way to student teaching. And that was what I wrote on my graduation cap, is why not live with the drive to inspire? So I encourage everyone to figure out what that soundtrack is that gets them motivated, that changes their mood, that really gets them up and going. I may be tired. My body may be saying to me, you know what, I'm tired today. But if I listen to this song walking across the quad, if I listen to this song right before I log into my class, it's going to change my mood and be my secret motivator. So.
You know, I really like that. You know, I like how you framed it, the soundtrack. So I wonder, what will be the soundtrack for our students, for your life, for those that are watching? What's your soundtrack? What's on your playlist? And so just listening to you say that, I'm like, well, what's on my playlist? So on my playlist would be Whitney Houston, I'm Every Woman, right? Because look at the things that we juggle. Yeah. We juggle, you know, careers, we juggle being in our homes and holding it down there with all of our multiple responsibilities. Women are holding it down, being mothers, caretakers, just doing so many things, being inventors and entrepreneurs, and just doing so many things. And probably also on my playlist would be Shining by Beyonce.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Shining by Beyonce. I'm a Beyonce lover. I think she's fabulous, and she set the tone and the bar for so many women that will come after her. And it's not about shining all of that winning. She's not talking just about money and arriving financially, but she's talking about all of that winning, all that we can do and all the winning that can take place with the things that we want to accomplish, right? The dreams that we have, the goals and ambitions that we have, all of that winning when you help somebody else and you know that the fruit of your labor of helping that person, especially our students, makes a difference not only to that student, but maybe to the family of that student, right. A sibling of that student, a neighbor of that student. So that legacy that we create, it's not just about the legacy that we create for ourselves. I certainly don't want that to be my legacy. I want my legacy to be, how did I impact the life of someone else? And then how did that person take it and pay it forward?
That was awesome. So we're gonna actually turn it towards the school board member, Kasey Dudley. So before you answer the question, can you tell us about yourself and what your contributions to the community?
So I have been a resident for Bloomfield for about 14 years. I'm originally from Red Bank, New Jersey. So a lot of people think I'm from Essex County, but I'm not. Born and raised Shore girl. But, I have taken a journey that I would not have quite believed had you told me this when I was in the seats of sitting in school, right, in college. My degree is in advertising. I worked as a senior director for Yahoo for some years. And then this little baby comes along, right? So, things happen and life changes, and you don't know what's going to happen. And that drove me down the path of advocacy. So, for first and foremost, I really didn't even know that I was going to be on this journey when he was born. But when you're talking about, what contributions have I made to the community, I have to say it started when my son was born. Yes, I always have been someone to take charge and be a leader and try to get things going, from having fun to, really, really serious issues. But when I really look back on it, I think my contribution where they would stick began the day my son was born. And I looked around and noticed the distress he was in. So my child was born at 26 weeks, right? So that's very abnormal. He was a micro preemie. And he could not tolerate, he was 1.5 pounds. He could not tolerate feeding in the NICU. And, looking around, there were not very many support systems for African-American women to emulate in that setting. And what I could see with my child, he was not able to tolerate his feedings. And there's a vicious cycle that they put babies through when they can't tolerate feeding. They put them back on bags, they feed them through GI tubes, but it was constantly a struggle for him. So I wanted to extremely breastfeed my son. And I did so, right? But they gave me pushback and told me that I could not do it where it was exclusive, meaning I had to fortify his milk with, formula. And I didn't want to do that, right? So I'm getting around to this because ultimately what happened, I was threatened. DIFUS was going to be called because it was a choice that I wanted to do for my child. Ultimately, I had to sign a waiver saying that I was responsible for his nutrition while in the NICU. And that did happen. He successfully came out of the NICU. But when I look back on that situation a year later, I noticed there were not other women that looked like me that breastfed their children. And so I became a lactation consultant, right? So I made my seat at the table. I wrote a curriculum for young women when I would go out and teach what it meant to breastfeed a child, a baby that may not be able to, work around feeding their nutrition via formula, or if that was just a decision that they wanted to make. Because I didn't see anyone doing what I was doing in support for the health and the nutrition of my child. So that is definitely one contribution that I have made. And I'm very proud of it because I think it's stuck, right? It's stuck with other women. I went on to work with other families in disparities in underserved communities and families with children with disabilities. So it goes on, but quite frankly, I think that we need to have more role models that we can look up to, that look like us, so that we can see that it's something that we can do too. It's not just them, it's us. We're making our own seats at the table.
Thank you for that. So I'm just going to ask Destiny Rogers if she can introduce herself as well and maybe talk about any disparities that she has been through as a young Black woman and maybe goals for herself that she might have.
Hi, everybody. My name is Destiny. I'm Vice President of Organizational Affairs for Bloomfield College of Student Government. Can you repeat the question, please?
Any disparities that you face growing up, or what goals you may have for yourself in the future as a college student?
So I'm from Toms River, New Jersey. So it's not many people that look like me there. And I actually work at an amusement park in the summer, and I've definitely faced a lot of things there regarding my race, also my gender, me being a woman. And I definitely broke a lot of glass ceilings, I would say. Like, I was able to become a manager, and that's really rare. I'm the only, other than my best friend, we're the only Black managers there, especially women. So I felt like that was a great achievement. It's actually one of my best achievements. So I feel like in life, definitely talking about intersectionality, me being a woman and also a Black woman, I have two things. So I definitely have a lot of setbacks, but I don't let it affect me. I feel like it just makes me stronger.
That's awesome. I can also relate to by your environment. Me growing up, I went to high school actually in Little Falls, New Jersey. And one thing that was really important for our school is women representation and empowerment. And I was actually a part of a thing called Girl Show. And it started in the 1940s because in the 1940s, there actually was no female sports. And it consists of exercise, cheerleading, and dancing. And it's something the town looks forward to. The girls, they perform. We do a 10-minute exercise routine. We build up leadership and bonding. So I can definitely see understand like what you went through in high school. So I would ask Dean Mitchell or Alexis, have you gone through any situations, when you were younger, of hardship or being judged against by the way you looked or the color of your skin? So when we talk about education, so my question for the board member is, teaching for schools of predominantly Black versus schools that maybe have a lighter complexion, do you think there's differences in the education, and what can we also do to make sure that there is equality within the educational system?
Of course, there's a difference. There's definitely a difference. So I'm from Red Bank, New Jersey. So I'm very familiar with Toms River, very familiar with Little Falls. I went to Red Bank. I graduated from Red Bank Regional High School, and I can say that the education that I received versus the education and other situations of educational environments that I've seen and worked with in my current role, it's completely different. There are basically, disparities. Obviously, we already know if you live in a different zip code where the taxes are a little bit higher or lower, your education is going to look different. And that's one of the reasons that I ran for as a board member. Although Bloomfield is a great town, it has great education services. There is a situation here where there was a lack of equity. So again, like the question that you asked me earlier about contributions to our community, when you see there is a void, it is up to us and our jobs to fill that void, right? So we want to ensure that not only is it happening with our community, but of course we want to make sure that it's happening within our educational system. So that's what we have to do. We have to be community members, parents showing up to ensure that our children are getting the best of those education opportunities as they would in other zip codes where our skin looks a little bit lighter, right? We have to know what the curriculum looks like. We have to understand how it does and does not benefit our children. And we also have to advocate for the education systems that we want to see our children receive that also, again, reflects the ones in other zip codes. So, I mean, that's why I'm here, to be honest with you.
Awesome, thank you for that. So the theme is We Don't Need No Permission, and it's really time for working women to boss up. So do you have any tips, 3 tips that you would give to a young adult who's a woman also trying to boss up and get, her life together as well?
So one of my mentors told me it's okay to ask for permission later, ask for forgiveness later, right? Not to ask for permission first, because you want to, as long as it's obviously within means. If it's coming from your heart and you stand on those beliefs, run with it. Go with your heart. Ensure that what you are bringing to the table is not going to benefit you, but is going to benefit those around you as well. I would also never ever accept no. Currently I am employed at the statewide parent advocacy, or SPAN advocacy, where we support families of children with developmental disabilities. And I'm the project director of a program called the Parents as Champions for Healthy Children, for Healthy Schools. Prior to being a part of this project, it was something that we really didn't know about, right? Schools and districts in New Jersey didn't really hear about and understand. But I tried to break a barrier where we were able to support all districts in New Jersey, especially those that are underserved. I wanted to ensure that all families are represented. So if I could say that there's anything to say to a young person that is looking to move forward, and whether it's be in education, in their career, or in their situation that they're in, move forward with your heart is saying, and ask for forgiveness later. As long as you know that what you're going to do is going to benefit not only you, but those around you, and they can pay it forward, go with your heart.
I thank you. I love what you just said, going with your heart and that passion and compassion, and believing in your heart, soul, and spirit that you can do all things with determination and hard work and commitment. I remember being one of 3 women of color when I was in grad school. And I went to grad school at a state school here in New Jersey. And at one point, it kind of bothered me a little bit that I was one of 3. But then I had to say to myself, why not me? Why should I not be in this classroom getting a quality education like everybody else? Why should my playing field not be equal to somebody else? And why should I not have a sense of fairness to education like the person next to me, regardless of their color? So as I always say, especially to the Bloomfield College students, you can do anything that you determine is necessary. So you have to ask yourself, what is your necessary? What is your necessary when it comes to your education? What is your necessary when it comes to your life, your family, your career, your goals, your ambition? What is your priority? And following your own path sometimes, while allowing other people to be a part of that journey who can make an impact that can help you. But just being resilient. You must be resilient if you want to achieve, I believe, anything in life.
So I think for me personally, and I know this sounds kind of cliche, I think everyone says, oh, never give up. But what I mean that when I say never give up, because you just don't ever want to look back and say, wow, things could have been differently. My mother always says, it's not how you fall down, but it's how you get back up. And I always tell people, just pray about it. If you're unsure, and everyone has their own different religious beliefs and practices, but I tell people all the time, just pray about it, because sometimes it's not what it seems. And sometimes you really just need to find your inner peace. And whatever your inner peace is what's going to motivate you. So I would just tell, if I'm looking back to me back in 2011, when I was a freshman in college, I would just tell that little girl, keep going, because there was a voice inside that told me to keep going. And that is why I continued, despite what day I was having, despite, you know, how many classes I had, despite what was going on in my mind, I just kept going. And regardless, like my mom always says, it's not how you fall down, but it's how you get back up.
That's true. And creating your circle. Who's in your circle? We all need a village. Who's in your village that's going to help you when you fall? It's going to help you when you break, you get bruised and bloody. Who's in your village really matters. When I was a student, Alexis, I had to have the right people in my village. Like I said earlier, I didn't arrive here on my own. I would never even say that. I arrived on the backs of other people, on the brilliance of other people, on the mentoring and the love of other people. So who's your love circle? And find those people that can help you to get where you want to be in life. And that's so important. And sometimes you're going to have to become your own cheerleader. You know, you can't wait for somebody else to motivate you or inspire you. If you have those people, that's great. But sometimes, Alexis, I believe we have to be our own. You know, that voice inside, you know, let that voice be heard. Don't silence that voice. And sometimes I think we have to recognize as women, we are more than enough. We are more than enough. We can juggle, we can heal, we can protect, we can balance a checkbook. We are brilliant. And there is nothing that we can't do. The things that we can't do, we tell ourselves that we can't. So I would say my advice, just remove I can't out of your vocabulary to I can.
Agreed. If you knew what was going on in the background here, school, dinner, and everything. So I agree with that. I think, you know, we need to invest those thoughts in ourselves more, right? So we already know what happens when we begin just a small token of positive thinking and how that results for us on the outside, right? So
Yeah.
we really need to inhale that we are enough, that is enough. And that you can really take yourself to heights that you never have known. You could not have told me that I'd be sitting in this seat years ago, right? I've been in those rooms where I was the only, you know, African-American woman in the room amongst a table full of Caucasian men, right? You know, moving mountains and making things happen with looks that say, how and who are you? How dare you? Right? But again, it's you have to move past that. You have to inhale that and take it in, regurgitate it back up, right? So that you know that you are here, you're shining, you're showing up and you're showing out, and do not at any point feel regretful for it. That was one of the things that I have a very loud voice. I'm very passionate. And I always said, I would always calm myself because I was always told, Kasey, you're a little bit too loud. You might want to calm down a little bit. But now that I have embraced that and embraced who I am, it's taken me beyond my beliefs of who I could ever be.
That's awesome. I just want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Evans. She's actually the first woman president of Bloomfield College. So this is actually an example of making history for women. But my question for you, Ms. Kasey Dudley, is actually, who inspires and empowers you as a woman?
Wow. So I would first have to say of course, my mother. So she's obviously my mother, my grandmother, my aunts. Those are the foundations of who I am and how I show up, and you know, the foundation of Kasey. You know, my cousins and all of those people that were around me growing up to make this foundation. But you know, there are so many other women that I look up to and walk alongside this journey that I've been, you know, walking with, and they have supported me tremendously. Um, Deborah Jennings is definitely one of them. She was our executive director. I also, you know, look at, you know, those that are in our public eye, right? You cannot forget Kamala Harris. You cannot forget, you know, Mrs. First Lady, right? Michelle Obama, by way of, that's my sister. She's my twin sister. She's January 15th, 17th, I'm the 16th. So I always feel like that's my sister in theory, right? But, you know, those that I can look up to and see myself in their image, honestly. So, there's so many different sides to Kasey, right? I have the side that I have advocacy. I'm a fanatic for rap music. I love to see, women in history. There's Shirley Chisholm. Those are the women that I looked up to, the ones that I can see in myself in their image. So the list goes on, but I just give homage to those.
That's awesome. Thank you. And so I'm gonna ask Destiny. So who inspires or empowers you?
I would definitely say my mother, because of everything like she's been through, and raising us as a single mom, like at the middle of our lives. Like I know it was really hard, so she definitely inspires me. And I would say any strong Black woman. Like I know Dean Mitchell inspires me because I want to eventually become a dean of students. I know Keisha inspires me. Any woman that I wish I could be, or wish I could live up to their like legacy. So I wouldn't say anybody specific, but because I look up to so many people, because I want to take a little bit from each person. But I would say anyone that is strong and unapologetic.
And so I also have a question for Ms. Dudley. So I hear you're part of civil rights. So what have you contributed to that as well?
So I'm actually one of three members that were newly elected to the Bloomfield Commission of Civil Rights. So we actually just started our meetings this year, and we are looking to plan some upcoming interesting events, starting with, you know, celebrating and recognizing Juneteenth in Bloomfield. We haven't completed it is that we're actually going to do, but those are some of the things. That's one of the initiatives that I am working on. We're also working on understanding and knowing your rights as a voter. We're also going to be working on discussing the rights of those with disabilities. So there's an array of things. We just had our first few meetings in the last couple of weeks, but I look to open that up to the community and work with people in the community alongside, our business owners, and, hopefully we can bring some information or some projects with the Board of Education. And I just look to really, really expand that to equity within our community.
So a question that I have, since you talked about civil rights, has it been kind of difficult considering COVID-19 being active and trying to help the community, or you working in your division?
So when you say, well, community as a whole, community in Bloomfield, I think it's going to be difficult. Things have completely changed, and people are worried about their safety. They're worried about, their jobs. They're worried about food. So the disparities are so far beyond that we could even imagine. I have to say it is going to be definitely difficult. But I have tried, by way of the position that I hold, you know, with SPAN, to support parents, to support families that don't have those olive branches. Every week we have a group where we are educating parents on how to become champions once we do transition back into school, right? They understand the structure of what's called the WISC model. That is a structure with the CDC, whole school, whole child, whole community. And we educate them around being partners with their administrators and being partners with their community members once we go back into COVID. So once we go back from COVID. So has it been a struggle? Yes. But what I am finding is that there's a new light of resilience, as Dean Rose talked about, right? There's a light of resilience that parents have really taken under going through this process. So we've learned how to balance. We've also gotten back to our structure of just lifestyle. We're spending more time with our families. We're, uncovering those things that we did not know, especially with our children that are happening in school. We're getting to know each other better. So as far as the civil rights, yes, of course, it's always going to be a struggle, whether COVID's here or not. But I think us as a people have learned so many things about ourselves that we're ready to move forward and outreach and band together to make things happen where they were not happening before.
Awesome, thank you. So we're gonna do our final remarks, so we can start with Alexis Cobb and then Dean Mitchell.
So
So one of the things that I was hoping that you would ask me was the question about just like who inspires me, because that is something that's like really important. So I wanted to jump in and say something. So I want to tag on that. So, you know, as a woman of color in higher education, I think if I had to just say who inspires me, of course, my mother, right? My mother is educated, and I come from a family where college is not optional. You don't have to get your master's, PhD, or anything like that, but you are going to college, and it doesn't matter how you get there, but you don't. And so I would have to say it definitely is my mother, but then it's also the women in higher education that look like me that I met along the way, and like Dean Mitchell. And one of the things that I have a friend, and this is some advice that I would give to anyone, is have an accountability partner. And so for me, my friend Ashley is my accountability partner, and we set different goals. And one of the things that I would say to just any student is to make sure that you set your own goals. And, you know, one of my goals that I had seen is maybe one day in higher education, I don't know if I'll make this happen, but maybe one day I'll be a president at an institution. And I say that because when we went to the inauguration for Dr. Evans, and I sat there and I watched her walk down, I said, wow, maybe one day that can be me. And so things like that are so motivating. And so to all of my students that, you know, are here, to all of my female students, to Destiny who wants a career in higher education, I just want to say, you know what, you guys have the support system here. We are your cheerleaders, and to really never give back up, like to never give up, because we always got your back.
If I could just chime in on that's great, Alexis. I can see you walking down that aisle. My source of inspiration, power, commitment, honestly comes from God. And so that's my driving force. And so I just utilize that strength where I get that from my power force. I use that to help other people, especially our students. So that's where I get my inspiration. It's from a higher power, but I also get it from this community in which I'm a part of and blessed to be a part of. So many students and colleagues, Dr. Evans, people that I work with on a daily inspire me. Homecoming Queen, you inspire me. I think that you're doing such an awesome job today. And so that serves as an inspiration for me. My children, my husband serve as an inspiration. My circle of friends and my community serves as an inspiration. The fact that I wake up every day and I see the sun shining serves as an inspiration, especially during COVID, right? When we're dealing with so many things, we can find inspiration anywhere if we look close enough. If we look close enough, we can find inspiration in people that we don't even know. So, you know, just keep in mind that, again, you can do so many things. And sometimes you're going to have to shine in your own star. That's what I tell my daughter, who's also in college, is sometimes you have to shine in your own star and be okay with that as a woman, especially a woman of color, and be that example, if you will, for other people. So
does anyone have any questions or comments in the chat? Okay, so I'm just going to move to the final remarks. So we can start with Ms. Kasey Dudley and end it off with Destiny.
I just want to say thank you to, and well, first of all, congratulations to Miss Queen, right? I want to thank you for given me the opportunity to be a part of this. I think these are some conversations and talks that should not only just happen right during Women's History Month. You know, these things should happen all the time, right? These are things that we should start to make a habit for all of us all the time, so that we can continue to see ourselves and be examples for those that may have a second guess or that are looking for inspiration in other women who look like them, or emulate the dreams or attributes that they want to see themselves in. Again, this has been an amazing experience. I'm sorry that I could not be there with you guys in person, but hopefully we'll be able to do this again one day, and we can meet all together when all this craziness stops. So just wanted to say thank you.
I just have like a piece of advice for everyone to think about. As a woman, you have a voice, and it's up to you to use your voice. And that's something I had to learn, and I'm glad I learned it young, because people will try to walk all over you because you are a woman. So you need to find your voice and don't ever let someone shut you down. Like, we don't need permission. You don't need permission to speak. And actually, I just got a call today from my advisor, Keisha. She was like, stop asking for permission to speak in meetings. And it was something that actually like inspired me, because I never realized I did that. And I'm always like a big advocate on, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, because people need to hear my voice. So I definitely thank her for that, because yeah, we don't need, as women, we don't need permission to speak. And we should always be able to speak our minds and not ever feel apologetic.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to all the ladies on the panelists: Alexis Cobbs, Dean Rose Mitchell, board member Kasey Dudley, and Destiny Rogers. So we're just going to end this, but be sure to check out the CSLE podcast report for our new newsletter, Ideal for Student Engagement in Campus Hot Topics, and also go to Bears and go shopping at the www.bloomfieldswag.com. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Yeah. Two with me, that's Siamese. Baby Habibi, Guyanese. They with me, they side with me, they side with me. I'm in the cut, it's eyes on me. And I'm in a hideout, high as can be. They want me to rap, my expertise, yeah, yeah. They want me to dress like Fitz ain't mean. I'm on stage like it's just me. If I ain't a choice, then it's not me. If I ain't alive, then it's not me. Pull up with top down, match my speed. I do my dance and I take that lead. The walk turn wrong when I catch that speed. You ain't see me when you did that D. You ain't see me when you did that D. Baby, I don't cheat. Baby, we discreet. I can't trust where eyes gon' see. They gon' place me where I be, and it won't be long. Only 2 or 3 songs. Only big vibes when you catch my drift. Can't catch up cause my car drift. Tell them drop Eddie, but this ain't no lift. She seen us on vibes, but I know she's pissed. Baby, too bad, I'm the biggest tisk. And I take them risks, and I take them risks. Baby, flood your risk, cause it could get lit. Yeah, cycling, spiking. I know the smile gets striking. I ain't surprised, I'm enlightened. Everyone's shiesty, shicing. I wrote the braddies writing. I wrote the braddies writing. I wrote the braddies out. I wrote the braddies. Make sure the doors go bust behind you, baby, yeah.